Welcome, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm thrilled that so many people were able to join us today. I'm really looking forward to a great conversation on an important topic that I know that we're all feeling quite passionate about. I wanted to introduce myself to start off. My name is Vanessa Thompson. I am a physician and primary care provider based at San Francisco General Hospital. I'm also the principal investigator and the lead faculty person at UCSF who has designed and is administering the Champion Provider Fellowship, along with our outstanding partners at Brown Miller Communications and the California Department of Public Health. Before we launch into the program, I just wanted to take a chance to do kind of an administrative check. Can you, if you can hear me, can you write yes in the chat box? So go ahead and write yes in the chat box if you can hear me. And I'm actually having a hard time seeing your chat. So Alana, give me the thumbs up when it's time to move forward. All righty. Well, I'm glad everybody can hear us. Couple other administrative issues that I wanted to cover regarding the webinar and then also the Champion Provider Fellowship specifically. We're going to keep folks muted throughout the course of the presentation. If you have a question during the presentation, please go ahead and use the chat box to write your question. And Alana Pfeffinger is going to be monitoring the chat box. If at any point you're having technical difficulties, please contact Alana Pfeffinger, who is the event organizer. And then I also wanted to highlight some exciting news, which is that we have been working on a toolkit which is on local school wellness policy implementation. And that toolkit is going to be uploaded to our website today after this webinar. And we are really excited to be able to share that with you. It'll be in the follow-up information that we send out to this group of folks who've attended. So I want to transition now to today's topic and presenter. Today's webinar is going to be used to discuss how to create healthier school environments through local school wellness policy. As our society deepens its look at structural racism, school-based wellness programs will be an essential part of this community-wide response. During the webinar, we will explore the current regulations, challenges, and successes with implementation, and importantly, how Champion Provider Fellows can be engaged in local school wellness policy efforts. I'm going to turn now to introduce today's speaker, Michael Danzik, who is an MPH and a registered dietitian. Mike is a nutrition education consultant for the California Department of Education's Nutrition Services Division. His previous responsibilities included statewide school meal marketing efforts, as well as training on the national school lunch and school breakfast requirements. He's a subject matter expert for local school wellness policy rules, state and federal competitive food and beverage standards, and access to free water in school requirements. Mike holds a master's in public health nutrition and is a registered dietitian. We are thrilled to be able to invite him to speak with this group as we look to try to meet these learning objectives. Specifically, that participants will articulate the purpose and benefits of local school wellness policies, that participants will describe the requirements of the local school wellness policies, and that folks who are on this call will determine action steps for school district local school wellness policy involvement. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Mike. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Vanessa. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you for inviting me to this webinar. It's wonderful to be able to share this information with you all today. So to kind of get into it, we've been certainly into this new normal for some time now, and first and foremost, I hope that everyone is staying safe and healthy. And again, I'd like to thank the Champion Provider Fellowship Program, UCSF, and Vanessa and Alana for this opportunity. I have been working in this arena of local school wellness policies since its inception, which has been about 15 years. And then just to kind of reiterate, I know that Alana read my bio, but again, my name is Mike Ganzik. I've been with the Nutrition Services Division, or what we call NSD, in the California Department of Education for over 20 years. And as a whole, our division, excuse me, is responsible for monitoring, enforcing, and providing training and technical assistance for all of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's or USDA's federally reimbursable meal programs, such as National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program. And again, my specific areas of focus have been local school wellness policy from the inception in 2004 all the way up to today. Competitive foods, which are those items that are sold outside of the school meal program, as well as food marketing on campus and access to water. And then again, I was also part of the team that provided training on the school lunch and breakfast requirements in 2012. Next slide, please. Thank you. And again, as Vanessa said, the intention of today's webinar is that you all walk away with the following objectives. First and foremost, to articulate the purpose and benefits of local school wellness policies, to describe the requirements of the wellness policies, and lastly, to determine action steps for school district wellness policy involvement. Next slide, please. So with those learning objectives in mind, what I'll do with my time today is again go over the purpose and benefits of wellness policies, how the wellness policy in general, the requirements came to be, the evolution of the rules and the current requirements, many of the successes and challenges I've observed throughout the wellness policy process, which begins, of course, with development, but enters into implementation, evaluation, and ultimate revision of policies. Again, how to get involved at your district or school level. A challenge for you today to create your own call to action, and then of course, excuse me, sorry, provide time at the end for questions. Next slide, please. Okay, so to put the purpose of this work into perspective, I wanted to share some national data highlighting the health of our nation. The first being the Centers for Disease Control's, or CDC's, obesity prevalence maps. As you'll notice as I talk, the map shows you from progresses from 2011 through 2018. And as you'll see, unfortunately, we're still kind of moving in the wrong direction when it comes to obesity prevalence. Again, with its main purpose or contributors of being poor diet and activity. I realize many of you may be familiar with these maps actually. So the CDC really began charting these maps in the late 1980s, but as of 2012, they refined the data used in their models to delete many of the outliers, which provides a more accurate account of obesity prevalence. But when they began way back then, they were really the wake-up call that as a nation, something needed to be done to reverse this obesity trend. And it would take efforts from many different angles to fully address this issue. And as you can see, again, the country is still trending the wrong way as we continue, or as this map, excuse me, continues to move from green to red. And unfortunately, we hope that there aren't additional colors coming into play later. Next slide, please. So this graph shows data gathered from NHANES studies, the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. And it compares the prevalence of obesity in our youth to that in our adult populations. This is between 1999 and 2016. And again, both showing an upward trend in obesity. Sorry. We do know that obese children often remain obese in adulthood. According to Georgetown University's Health Policy Institute, the probability that an obese child will become an obese adult increases with age. They found that more than half of obese children over the age of 6, and actually between 5 and 6 is when many children start kindergarten. So over half of these children become obese adults, and it just that trend continues and gets worse as about 3/4 of obese adolescents actually remain obese in adulthood. And as we also know, obesity is a major risk factor for 4 out of the 10 leading causes of death. So we truly have an obligation to intervene early in a child's life to instill positive health behaviors. Next slide, please. Is the slide advancing? Hopefully we're not experiencing any technological glitches. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and continue, and hopefully the slide will advance when it is ready. So,
Mike, I'll go ahead and contact Alana to see if we can get the slides advancing.
Okay, thank you. Technology, gotta love it. The next slide really is entering into the benefits of wellness and wellness policies. And so really, why focus on schools? Well, schools are really a perfect place to affect change. There are almost 51 million kindergarten through 12th grade students in U.S. public schools, and almost 6 million in U.S. private schools. California actually boasts about 6.1 million students K through 12. And really, these children and young adults are captive audiences, if you really think about it. They're in school an average of 6 to 8 hours a day, 180 plus days a year for up to 13 years. So that's quite a bit of time that they spend in school. We know that healthy students are more ready to learn. It is well established that healthy behaviors and education are mutually reinforcing. Positive health behaviors are associated with higher academic achievement, and conversely, negative health behaviors are associated with lower academic achievement. There was some CDC data from Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System, shows students who report mostly A's have healthier behaviors than those reporting C's and D's. As another example, more research has been emerging in regards to the effects of chronic absenteeism, the reason for it, its effect on academic achievement. Most chronic absenteeism, and that's defined as missing at least 10% of school days in a year. So that's about 18 days a year, are due mainly to health-related issues. There's a group called Attendance Works, and they've done some amazing research in this area if you're interested in Googling Attendance Works. The school environment, there we go. Or it's coming online. The school environment really lends itself perfect to providing many opportunities to model, communicate, and practice healthful eating, physical activity, and other healthy behaviors. And wellness policies provide a great model for establishing healthy lifelong change. Looks like we're coming back on board. Give it a minute. Okay, so this was really the slide that we just went through. Great, thank you, Alana. So moving on, in addition to understanding that absent students don't learn well, neither do hungry students. So one back, I believe, please. Perfect. Nutrition is also an important factor to student health and academic success. There are multiple studies showing the increase in cognitive function of students that are well nourished, especially those who eat breakfast. And this slide is a great visual to what a hungry brain looks like compared to a well-nourished brain. Where does our focus center when we are hungry? Is it usually on the task at hand? Probably not. Again, most of you are probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it explains above all else, until we meet our basic needs for food, shelter, clothing, and the like, our brains are really not ready to move forward or to learn. But after eating, the image on the bottom of the slide shows that the frontal lobe, which is specifically responsible for those learning functions, the executive functioning, abstract thinking, problem solving, and reasoning, that's when they get activated, is when food enters the system. Next slide, please. The wellness policy you can look at as a rallying point. It really serves as a platform to develop and share a district's vision for a healthy school environment. As a driving force for change, not only can it affect the current school climate and culture, but if its tenets are institutionalized, it will affect the next generation of students, the generation after that, and so on. Wellness policies provide opportunities for district, school, and community partners to come together and collaborate for a common cause. Collaboration creates support, and support leads to action. And I think we can all agree that when we are included in the process, we have a greater affinity to seeing the outcomes. True consensus leads to a well-designed, realistic, and agreed-upon policy, which then leads to greater accountability, which leads to effective implementation. And it's a great accomplishment, of course, when we're all rowing together. Next slide. So I hopefully have impressed upon you the rationale for having wellness policies in schools, but I wanted to kind of back up a little bit and talk a little bit about the history and how they came about. In 2004, Congress introduced the wellness policy requirement through what's called the Child Nutrition and WIC Reauthorization Act. In 2010, Congress expanded these requirements, including authorizing the USDA to create regulations that spell out the requirements and their process in more detail. And then in 2016, the USDA released these regulations. Next slide. The Child Nutrition and WIC Reauthorization Act allows Congress the opportunity to review and amend all of the federally funded child nutrition programs. Again, I mentioned a few earlier, the National School Lunch and School Breakfast Program, but others are the Child and Adult Care Food Program, as well as the Summer Food Service Program. So in 2004, Congress included a new requirement in the reauthorization called the Local School Wellness Policy. It required all schools and all school districts across the nation that participate in either the National School Lunch Program or School Breakfast Program to adopt a local school wellness policy. Next slide, please. Reauthorization happened again in 2010, and it's more well known by its moniker, the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, which many of you may know. And this expanded on the initial requirements that occurred in 2004. In particular, it authorized the USDA to promulgate regulations that encapsulate all of the wellness policy requirements. It ensures that the school and community members also not only be involved in the development of the policy, but also the implementation, evaluation, and revision of the wellness policy. And then it also added reporting and assessment requirements that districts are required to share. Next slide, please. So after a lengthy regulatory process, the USDA released its regulations, which we call the Local School Wellness Policy Final Rule, and it became effective in June of 2016. And it truly is the language, it is the language in this final rule that includes all of the wellness policy requirements that a district must follow. Next slide, please. Okay, so with that, the following slides will represent the current criteria, topics, and other issues that must be either woven into or applied to a district's wellness policy. So for starters, a district wellness policy must include specific goals for the following areas. The first is nutrition education. I do want to mention here that the way that the rules are written, they're very broad, and really it just says that a school or a district must include goals for, and then because of that, it allows the district to create the goals as it sees fit. But in general, nutrition education can be defined as a continuum of learning experiences to develop knowledge and skills that become lifelong healthy eating practices. So that's kind of the gold standard. At the very least, they should be included in standards-based health education, and health education is required in schools. They can also be easily integrated into other subjects, such as science and math, and schools can implement hands-on learning experiences. Many have school gardens, many do classroom cooking experiences. So those are all examples of nutrition education. Nutrition promotion, which is actually one of the newer requirements, things like activities. So these are activities that increase awareness of good nutrition practices and help ensure consistent messaging across and throughout the school environment. Visuals such as posters, newsletters, using social media, activities such as taste tests in the cafeteria, nutrition assemblies or health fairs, and then of course school meal program outreach are all examples of nutrition promotion. Physical activity is another required goal, and again, this is different than physical education. Physical education is really an academic skill-based class. Physical activity, it provides opportunity for movement of the body, uses energy. That can include classroom energizers, recess, and intramural activities. Of course, the goals in any district wellness policy should also include California's physical education requirements. There's a certain number of minutes that are required in California schools for physical education. And as a whole, this requirement that should be included in a policy allows children to help reach that recommended 60 minutes of physical activity per day. And lastly, the wellness policy must include what they call other school-based activities that address health. Other could be comprehensive activities promoting student wellness and health, such as school-based health services, mental health services, anti-bullying and violence prevention, staff wellness, family engagement, and those sorts of things. Next slide, please. I kind of wanted to pause and introduce this national model to you because it's a great link to wellness policies. And again, many of you may have seen this in the past. It's called the Whole School, Whole Community, Whole Child model, or what we call the WISC model. It was created by the CDC in collaboration with another group, and it really takes place of what used to be called the Coordinated School Health Model, if some of you are familiar with that. Again, as I mentioned, it's not directly linked to the wellness policy requirements, but they certainly work together to especially identify areas of wellness that a district could focus on. So you first notice that the outer core represents the community, which is a crucial sector necessary for a successful wellness policy. The next layer represents the 10 health-related components, and all of which can be incorporated into a wellness policy, with the center being represented to the student as the core, which is the focus. Next slide, please. So moving on with requirements. So in addition to addressing these goals of nutrition ed, nutrition promotion, and so forth, the policy must also address food and beverage marketing, and specifically marketing that occurs on school campus and during the school day. As defined, marketing commonly includes oral, written, or graphic statements made for the purpose of promoting the sale of a food or beverage product. Food and beverage marketing are commonly present in many areas of the school campus, which can also include, again, the athletic fields and stadiums. It can include school buses, parking lots, and so on. The rule itself states that the only foods and beverages allowed to be marketed on the school campus and during the school day are those foods and beverages that meet the competitive food requirements. And again, competitive foods are those items sold outside of the school meal in areas such as vending machines, student stores, parent groups, or even individual items sold by food service departments, things like fundraising and other things that groups do. There are nutrition standards that competitive foods must meet. We're not getting into that issue today. But again, basically, if the food or beverage does not meet these standards, they're not allowed to be marketed on school campus during the school day. Next slide, please. Districts must also designate at least one person with the authority to ensure schools comply with the policy. The person's title and position must be available to the public, and in most cases, it's usually the district superintendent that's designated or somebody equivalent with the equivalent authority. Next slide, please. The rule regarding public involvement requires that the district actually describe in the policy itself how it plans to reach out to various community, district, and school members, inviting them into the process. The rule also specifically states that if a person is interested in the process, they cannot be denied the opportunity to participate. Next slide. And lastly, the USDA regulations created 2 reporting requirements. The first is an annual update, which says that each year the district must make the policy available to the public and share if and how the policy was updated. It must also share any implementation plans and any goals that the district will be focusing on for the upcoming year. The second requirement is really a comprehensive assessment, and this must be completed at least once every 3 years, hence the term triennial assessment. The triennial assessment must include 3 components. The first is that this assessment must compare, so the district, or there must be a comparison of the district policy to what's called a model policy. And this is completed so the district has kind of a benchmark of where it currently is to where it might look like in the future. And there are some accepted model policies that are available, which I can share a little bit later if you'd like me to. The second area that the triennial assessment must cover is how the district's schools are complying with the policy. Of course, every policy might look a little bit different. The goals might look a little bit different. And so this assessment will bring to light how each of the schools are complying with their particular policy. And lastly, the district must describe the progress made in attaining the goals of their policy. So it will expose some of the gaps possibly, and certainly some of the successes that they've been able to do. The first triennial assessment is due June 30th of 2020. Unfortunately, due to COVID, and this is maybe fortunate, the USDA has actually allowed districts to submit a waiver. They submit that waiver to us at the department. And if they do submit the waiver, that allows districts to extend the completion date of the triennial assessment up to June 2021. Next slide. Okay. Now I'd like to discuss excuse me, some of the successes and challenges, and really why I think some districts are more successful than others, and others are more challenged in this process. Most of my impressions here are purely anecdotal, all based on the experiences that I've had over really the 15 years in speaking with districts and various staff and folks within the districts as well. Next slide, please. So for the most part, what I have found is that a district will be more successful. And when I talk about success, I'm really looking at the areas of the wellness policy, which is the development of, implementation, the monitoring, evaluation, and revision, which the little logo shows up in the corner. So a district will be more successful when they have many of these in place. If they have strong, committed leadership at all levels, if they have a core group of dedicated staff, if districts have actual funding for implementation and activities, and if they've been able to create specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely, what we call SMART goals. Next slide. In addition, successful districts with their wellness policy have strong committed community involvement. If they have a wellness coordinator, someone who actually wears only one hat and dedicated solely to this endeavor. If they have strong policy language, if they use language that requires or says shall, again, which will enforce behaviors or actions that hopefully lead to positive behaviors. And then truly, if they're flexible with their plans and can adjust accordingly, because as we all know, sometimes initial plans don't always work out, and we need to be flexible enough to make changes and to accept those changes in a quick manner. Next slide, please. Some of the challenges I've witnessed that create obstacles to success include creating and sustaining a strong stakeholder group, in other words, a strong and committed wellness committee. Generally, as you know, community members come and go, parents come and go, school staff come and go, district leaders come and go. That's sort of that's kind of par for the course. So that creates some of the challenges, but also just involvement and getting people to the table has been a challenge for many of the districts. In addition, competing staff priorities. Again, as this work does not include funding, many times leadership and members wear many hats and must prioritize this work against their other duties. In addition, finding staff with strong project management skills. Many times this work comes down to being able to manage projects and facilitate people. And some folks in leadership positions are better versed than others at this skill. In addition, some may be put in charge of this work with absolutely no authority over the group members that they're asking work from. And another challenge is buy-in. In essence, this process is really akin to moving a large ship, and it takes skills to educate, facilitate, and bring people along in the process. Next slide, please. In addition, what I've seen is what I call the too few rule the many. I've actually witnessed wellness committees of maybe 3 people. And they will go into a back room and create a district policy in maybe 2 or 3 sessions. And needless to say, when you think that through, most policies without additional input and buy-in will not really be fully vetted by the district and school personnel and will be very difficult to implement. I have seen sort of the lack of comfort and confidence. Again, there are many facets to this work, and many of the volunteers may not be comfortable or confident with things such as monitoring others for compliance, evaluation activities, and so forth. And lastly, I'm in converse to a strong or to some successes. I also see a lot of weak policy language. So there's not much commitment that will stem from words like encourage or to the extent possible. And I do want to reiterate or want to make sure that I say that soft language like this isn't it's necessary in some situations, but it can certainly be a roadblock to action when it makes up the bulk of a policy. And these changes, these challenges subsequently lead to challenges of creating realistic and impactful action plans, which are absolutely necessary to determine who's going to do what, when, and where. That will ultimately lead to difficulties in implementation and evaluation. And it's really important to keep all of these in mind, as all districts will have their successes and challenges as they continue to work towards wellness. So as you start to ponder how to get involved in supporting your districts to develop a healthier school environment, really remember what you bring to the table as a healthcare professional. You are probably going to be the only represented clinician on the committee. You certainly bring a unique community perspective in this way, and you have access and can provide important information to the group that others truly cannot. Next slide, please. And in general, as a community member, you can certainly support the development of a healthier school environment by helping create the vision and goals for the wellness policy, assist with the development, implementation, evaluation, and revision of the policy, promote parent, community, and professional involvement in developing a healthier school environment, and help plan and implement programs for students and staff. You can advocate for school health programs and policies within the broader school community, help tap into potential funding sources or leverage other resources for wellness activities, and truly in your capacity provide very impactful feedback to the district. And I also wanted to take a moment to express that considering the health emergency occurring in our communities and around the world, now more than ever should wellness really be a priority. School health and wellness may look different in the future, and I just wanted to emphasize the important role you all play in support and partnership with schools. Many districts are still committed to the tenets of their wellness policy goals, and they're figuring out ways to continue this work. They truly need your help and support to help them navigate what health and wellness will look like when we come out the other side of this crisis. And you are all an invaluable resource to the school community, and we hope you continue forging partnerships with your schools and your communities as well. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to, again, sort of, excuse me, touch on responding to the COVID crisis. So really, how are schools responding to this so far? And what we've seen so far, school district and food service personnel have really been nothing short of superheroes. I have really never seen a more resilient, dedicated, accountable, committed, passionate group of people. With some of the assistance from the USDA and state agencies, allowing them some flexibilities in how they operate, schools from across the nation continue to serve meals to children each and every day. They really have not missed a step. They've had to overcome tremendous obstacles regarding health and safety workers, parents and students, food safety and sanitation issues, interruptions in food supply chain, but they really continue to persevere. They're out there on the front lines every single day, ensuring thousands and thousands of students receive well-balanced, healthy meals. And I think it's in times of crises such as this that ensuring students and families alike continue to receive well-balanced food options critical, especially to ensure that our vulnerable populations, such as those with health-related diseases, obesity, and so forth, really continue to get healthy meals. Okay, next slide. So really at this time, this is where I like to ask each of you to take a minute or so to first describe what areas of health you're most passionate about. Is that nutrition, physical activity, food insecurity, proper hydration, so forth, dental health? And then really with that information, to jot down 1 or 2 actions that you will take to reach out to a district and determine how best you can get involved. And I know that they will welcome you, your guidance, and your expertise with open arms. I also know that there's some local health departments that might be joining us today on this webinar. So I also encourage you all to reach out to them, as I know that they're already included in our efforts and are doing work in schools. So keep thinking that through as we move on to the next slide. I'm almost completed here. Just to let you know, there's a couple of additional resources I wanted to include if you're interested in extending your knowledge regarding wellness. So these are 2 links to our department's website. One is to our general nutrition page, and the other one is more specific to our local wellness page. And of course, you're always welcome to contact me directly. And with that, last slide. I would just like to thank you again for allowing me to present to you today. Here is my contact information, and then with the time remaining, I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. I know that we received some earlier, so I can address, and again, Alana or Vanessa, let me know how exactly you'd like us to do the Q&A at this point.
Thank you so much, Mike. That was a great overview, and I loved the opportunity for folks to be able to really think about how they can engage. I know there are a lot of really committed, involved people on this call, and so your continued engagement in this important issue is going to be essential to the success of the ongoing success of this program. Are you able to see the questions, Mike? Do you want me to read them out to you? Or I think there are a couple of comments and then also some questions. You know, the Champion Provider Fellowship is both, is a program both for dentists and for doctors. And so one of our dental colleagues highlighted adding toothbrushing to some of the approaches to enhancing school wellness, just highlighting that some of the early dental care that happens for our California children happen in schools, and thinking through where that might fit in. There was a question about whether, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just agreeing.
Yeah.
I was just agreeing with you.
Great. There was a question about whether or not we are going to be sharing these slides and resources, and the answer is yes. You will get a follow-up. You'll get a follow-up email from Alana regarding this. And then there was one question about using the Spark curriculum to train teachers to create change at the school sites. That was from Sarah Tomlinson. Are you familiar with the Spark curriculum, or Sarah, do you want to be able to speak more to that?
So I'm a little familiar. I believe it's is it a physical activity, physical education curriculum?
I personally am not familiar with the Spark curriculum, and it's not clear to me whether or not Sarah can talk, because I know initially we had muted folks. So maybe you could, if you are not familiar with that, that's something that potentially we can follow up with after the at the end. I know there's another question from Mozam, which is, thank you so much for the presentation, Michael. In your experience, has the nutrition and physical activity portions of the local school wellness policy served as driving points for engaging your stakeholders at the schools? Or do you find that some of the other topics, anti-bullying, staff engagement, et cetera, can be the primary focus of local school wellness initiatives without losing some of that drive/focus?
Yeah, great question. I think initially when the rules for wellness policy came out, the focus certainly was on nutrition and physical activity, because those were really the two goals that were called out initially, and then you have this other. But I think as the wellness policy work has evolved, I think truly social and emotional health has really bubbled to the surface, knowing that nutrition and PA are still important, but especially considering what's happening today. And what I have found in the work that I've been doing probably over the last year or so, social and emotional health has really been something that's becoming more and more in the forefront for schools to grapple with and better understand how to implement strategies for. So I think overall, any of these areas are great areas as entrants. But again, really the districts hopefully have been working diligently on where they want to see themselves. And so again, that will be different a little bit based on each district. But again, I think those three areas, nutrition, PA, and social emotional health, are probably are the top three areas that districts are looking to focus on.
Great, thank you. Marie Buell is asking, how do we reach out to participate? So can you let us know how we find out who our local school wellness policy contact folks are for each of the California communities?
That's a great question too. Ideally, every district should have a wellness committee. So I would say the best way to reach out is you can reach out directly to the superintendent of that district. You can reach out to the food service director of that district, knowing that they, out of any wellness committee, those are going to be the highlighted spots on wellness committees. So if anybody's going to know about the committee and the work that it's doing in the district, it will be those two positions.
And I can just comment from, I am a San Francisco resident and have San Francisco public school kids. And I reached out exactly that way, reached out through the, I just emailed the superintendent, who then forwarded the email to the local school wellness policy contact staff person. So that's how I was connected with them.
Perfect. Most districts have their wellness policy on their website. So if you do some Googling to the district and then find either nutrition or wellness, you may actually find the wellness committee members in those documents as well.
So the next question is from Sarah Tomlinson. How do you think we can continue our work with school wellness policies during COVID? And I think probably, thinking through some of the distance needs that we're going to have coming up.
Right. Another great question, because this has kind of thrown us all for a loop. And I think I mentioned earlier that a lot of districts are still continuing this work. And so again, instead of having wellness committee meetings, they're having wellness committee Zoom meetings. They're tackling some of the more direct issues that are occurring due to COVID, such as distance learning and feeding kids in a very different atmosphere. So again, I would say, no different than if things happen to be quote unquote normal, is reaching out to determine if and how and when the wellness committees at these various districts are deciding to move forward is the best way.
Another question about whether or not you have any specific recommendations to get school board buy-in into wellness policy implementation. So highlighting this issue with the local school board.
Another great question, because again, without school board support, things tend to get slow and sluggish and stop. And again, I think you all as a group today can bring that community knowledge, that health knowledge, those statistics that I think speak very directly to school boards. They want to make sure that their students are healthy, and in so doing, they may not always have the data in front of them to show how their school is doing, how their community is doing. So those are really good ways to approach school boards. Just being a community member and going to school board meetings, again, however that's working at this stage of the game, and speaking on behalf speaks volumes. It's just such a, I think they take the information from community members in a different way than they do school staff.
All right, just a couple points of clarification, talking about some different curriculums, physical activity curriculums that are out there. One is Catch and the other one is Spark. And we can get links to information on both of those and send those out to this group. But I know some of the folks on this call use these resources as a way to train the teachers on more interactive play.
Great.
So then we have one more question is whether you think that they will make time for nutrition, education, and physical activity if they can hardly keep up with reaching their yearly standards. So I think this is going back to, school in the time of COVID. How are we going to be able to make sure that some of these, that the school districts continue to focus in these areas that we know to be just as important to learning as some of the classroom-based curriculum that they get.
Right. And again, I think some of the wonderful and easy ways you can integrate these health-related issues into anything lend itself to distance learning as well. Again, as we know, especially for those of you out there that have, elementary school age kids, keeping them active, keeping them well nourished at home is critical to everybody's sanity, right? I think that schools are definitely interested in ensuring that kids continue nutrition, physical activity throughout this time, and the fact that they're so easily integratable into a school day, let alone a home day, again, lends itself really, and then connecting it back to core curriculum and other distance learning issues, I think is one of the real benefits of health and wellness. So.
I would agree with you, Mike. And, just putting my parent hat on, I have elementary school kids, and I know that our physical education teachers have continued to do online curriculum. I feel like though most of us are kind of zoomed out, both we and our kids are literally have had a lot of Zoom. And so at least my experience in San Francisco is that these next 2 months are going to be critical time period for how school districts are thinking about the next year. I think my worry is that they, that folks are still kind of in the mourning phase of COVID and haven't moved into the active planning phase of how to deal with this pandemic. But I think that we as either healthcare providers or folks who have knowledge in public health issues can really spur school districts to action, both to face the fact that things probably won't be as we, won't be a regular school year next year. And so with that knowledge, how can we make sure that we're meeting all students' needs, not just some of the kind of bare minimum needs that most people think about when they think of school.
Yeah, agreed.
So I would just say that as today is the last day of school, at least in our school district. And so it feels like a timely day to really think about are there things that we can do over the next 2 months to help our school districts prepare to meet these needs in this new era or this new environment.
Yeah, and I know that our state superintendent of public instruction is very committed to continuing ensure, that this, even though it's a quote unquote last day of school or we're entering into summer, for him and many of my colleagues at the department, there really is no break. We're continuing to figure out how to keep the learning going through summer and what it will look like potentially in the fall.
Great. Well, with keeping an eye on time, I just want to thank you so much, Mike, as well as all of the Champion Provider Fellows and local health department representatives who are on the call today. I really appreciate you making this a priority because I do feel like this is an area that is ripe for our action. And we, as mentioned before, we will be sharing a full recording of the webinar, including slides that are going to be made available to everyone to access online. And we will send that out via email. And also at that time, look for the toolkit that we are just publishing today. It'll be on our website, but we'll send you a link to that to take you through some of the steps and some case studies that you might want to look at to be able to think about how to adapt this work in your community. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate this. And I wish you all a happy, healthy summer.
And thank you all for allowing me the time today.
Great.